Hey there! We are back with The Templars by Dan Jones, The Rise and Fall of God's Holy Warriors. Check this guy out. About 415 reading pages for your pleasure, and then what? We got about this much or so in the back, all bibliography, references, character list. Yeah, it's a pretty decent read, over 400 pages. It's got a few of these picture sections, which I always like. Especially when you get to see the real places and some of the buildings that are still standing today. That's what I really love to see. It's just awesome stuff. You can take a look here at the print. You know, you read these history books and they can be pretty blocky. So it's nice when the authors can kind of mix it up with writings and firsthand accounts. You know, it gets tough. When does this take place? Like 1100 through about 1300. So there's not too much, hanging around from back then that they can break up the blockiness. But overall, it was an enjoyable book. You know, this is the second Dan Jones book I have read. The first one was The Summer of Blood, which I didn't really care for. The events and his writing style, being his first book, his writing style for me was a little, didn't feel too smooth. So I was hoping when I picked this one up that please be a little bit smoother. Maybe he's polished it off, and he has. Or he had. I think this came out in 2017. So yeah, this was a much more enjoyable read to get through. If you would have asked me before I read this book what I knew about the Templars, I would have said nothing. I think they're probably maybe like Navy SEALs of the Christian world. Other than that, I couldn't tell you a thing. Crusades come to mind. So this was really interesting because it covers not only the fighting and the warrior side of the organization, but the whole financial empire that I had no idea existed. So the book kind of jumps back and forth between going through the front lines over in Syria, near Jerusalem, Egypt, up by Cairo. It'll focus around there, tell you what they're doing, how they started, the battles they're fighting, and then it'll shift and go over the same time period in Spain or France and how, they really began to pick up steam financially. They would be gifted enormous amount of, the offerings, and then kings would just decree, oh, this castle's for you, this gold is for you. They would help him either defend his kingdom in a battle, or maybe just through becoming friends and liking them and saying, hey, we want to donate to your cause. So for me, the financial part of it, I didn't expect that. That was really interesting to learn about, and how that part of the Templars really, it was much more successful, I think, than the fighting, which is very disappointing. You think, oh, God's holy warriors, you think they're the ultimate mercenary, and then you read this and you're like, they kind of lost a lot. Yeah, they had some good moments, but this book goes over, I think, the second, third, fourth, and fifth crusade. Not totally in depth, but kind of touches on them and the Templars' role during them, and a lot of those did not go well. So I'm reading this going, oh, what's the big deal with these guys? I mean, yeah, they're rich. They got assets over here, but over here where it seems like that's where it matters most, they're not doing so well. So, like I said, this book goes from their origins in Jerusalem up till the end, just after the year 1300. You get to see little bits of joining up with the Crusades, crusading armies that come. They join up with them, take part in battles. A lot of that which did not go well. Sometimes it's the Templars' fault. They do have accounts of where people get overzealous and they want accolades for themselves, and they keep storming on in, and it's like, what are you doing? Wait for everybody else? No, you're all dead. Good job. Now we got to wait for the next crusade. So yeah, that was pretty interesting to read about. I was a little disappointed. I do love in these books, like the battles. There's a book by Roger Crowley about Constantinople and the Venetian Empire, and there's a lot of battle scenes, sea battles and sieges on cities. This one, there's times where he'll start to go into a battle, or where they're gonna sack this city, and it kind of talks about the beginning parts, and then a few months later it was finished, and they all went home, and you're just like, whoa, what happened? Oh, you skipped over the best part. Now, I will say, I do have a book or he has a book on the Crusades that I bought, and I'm planning on reading. So I'm hoping the Crusades book goes into more detail about those battles. I can understand why, when you're focusing just on the Templars, you don't want to fill up a whole bunch of pages with battles. Tell what they're involved with, move on to the next one. So yeah, that was disappointing, but I said, hopefully the next book, the Crusade one, has more. So for me, who's just a casual history fan, I did enjoy this. I found it very interesting, and I learned a lot. Things I would not have guessed about the Templars. I was like, oh, okay, didn't expect that. Interesting. Like I said, 400 pages. Took me about a week to read. A few days I didn't read much, and of course, when you start getting down towards the end, those last 100 pages or so really fly by. So a week's read, not too difficult. A little, it can get stagnant in there with all that blocky stuff. So there's some times you got to push through. But if you're interested in that kind of thing, you're a fan of history, why not give it a try? I enjoyed it. I hope you do too. I'll catch you next time.